Welcome. In front of me I have the Sony Xperia 10 Mark V, and today I'll go over unboxing along with a quick overview of this phone. So let's just get straight into it. Now probably by the looks of it, you can gather that there is no charger in here. Honestly, by the looks of it, it looks like there's not even a cable in here, but we'll see in a second. So packaging looks like recycled, so that's pretty nice. It also does present itself pretty good. Got a phone in here. It's like super light, to be completely honest. Maybe I'm just used to my brick. Here we get some paperwork. No way, I was actually correct. Okay, look at that. So Sony decided to be the first one to sell you an overpriced phone without even including a cable. Courageous. Anyway, I just throw that garbage to the side. Let's peel that off. There we go. And let's turn on the device. Now, one thing to keep in mind, this device is super small, to be honest. Compared to like other devices, this is really small. Now, I have nothing against smaller devices, but considering this is a little bit more expensive than what you might expect, coming at about $500 US, it doesn't look like $500 well spent. Let's just put it this way. But anyway, let's just actually get a look at the spec sheet to see what we get. Now, once this screen is on, as you can see, we have fairly substantial bezels at the top and bottom. Now, this is a typical thing from the Xperia lineup, though honestly, at this size, it seems a little bit too big of a bezel, especially when you have other devices that nowadays have like, I don't know, a couple millimeters of bezel. This just feels outdated, and for $500, it also seems pricey. Oh, phone. Oh, there we go. So, starting off with the display, this is a 6.1 inch display with a resolution of 1080 by 2520. It's a OLED display, so at least that's pretty nice. 1 billion colors, HDR certified, and surprisingly no high refresh rate for $500 freaking dollars. Are you kidding me? So you get OLED without the high refresh rate. It's kind of like a cool that we get an OLED, and here you go, here's an L in return for no refresh rate. It boasts an 82.5% screen to body ratio with 450 pixels per inch. Also, at the front we have Gorilla Victus, and let's move over to the back because the display is underwhelming. Let's just look at the cameras in this case. Maybe they're a little bit better. We have a 48 megapixel f1.8 26mm wide lens. Then we got an 8 megapixel telephoto f2.2 54 millimeters, and another 8 megapixel f2.2 120 degree 16 millimeter ultra wide lens. And with those cameras you can shoot at 1080p 30 frames. Jeez, this phone is catching L after L. Then at the front we get an 8 megapixel. You can't make this shit up. 8 megapixel f2.0 26mm wide lens, again 1080p 30 frames. And that's basically it for the cameras. So in terms of storage, we are looking at a very minimum 128 gigabytes of built-in storage with 6 gigs of RAM, and if you go for the higher one you still get 128 gigs of storage, but you get 8 gigs of RAM. Now we do have a toolless SIM tray, so let's just take it out. Nice, it just sheared off part of my fingernail. Now we do have expandable storage, so you can pop in an SD card. So if you need more than 128, at least they gave you an expandable storage, so props for that. Not every device does that. Actually, not very many devices do that nowadays. Now moving on, this device is being powered by a puny Snapdragon 695 5G. So at least we have a 5G connectivity, but this is a Snapdragon 695 for $500. Oof. Now, one thing that is surprising here is the battery capacity. For such a small device, this is boasting a 5000 mAh battery. So that is actually a really good battery size. This device will, in this case, last you a pretty decent time, considering the display is pretty small. It doesn't run high refresh rate, which in terms of battery life, these are good. But let's be honest, I prefer to high refresh rate and turn it off if I need the battery life, rather than just not having it and the company deciding like, yeah, you're not getting it because battery. I prefer to make those choices myself. So yeah. Now, with that being said, there is not much more to say about this device. It honestly is a, what I would consider a budget device. This might sound very ignorant in terms of like who this device is catering to. But as a general user, I'm looking for a decent phone that basically fulfills the same tasks as any other phone, and how well it's doing it. And when you compare this to most other devices, at this price range, this device falls behind quite hard. It just plummets. And just to quickly look into this, just so I can give you actual like numbers. Gonna look at GSM Arena. Thanks, folks. And I'm gonna compare it to. Let's see. I'm trying to find what would be the best device for at this price range, and was this one? I mean, it's significantly better, but okay. So I think there might have been Pro. So Xiaomi Poco F5. Let's see, is there a Pro? Yes, there is a Pro. So Xiaomi, and look at that, it's actually still cheaper. Okay, that's gonna be a massive L for this device. Ooh, the comparison here is not even fair. So, if you're looking for a phone, I'm just gonna straight away say, if you don't mind Chinese, Xiaomi Poco F5 Pro will be the go-to phone for you. If you don't need anything that this device specifically brings to the table, like there are some camera applications, which, to be completely honest, these cameras are not very good for this kind of use. They seem to be pretty garbage on paper. I haven't tested them out yet, but I'll be honest, in terms of like the Xperia devices, these devices never really delivered such a great picture quality. Now, I'm not a photographer, so I personally do prefer a phone that does a little bit more work for me, rather than me trying to figure out and fiddle around with the settings when I'm trying to capture a photo quickly. Because by the time I manage to tune the settings, the moment might be gone. So I prefer a device that does this automatically on the go. When I press the button to take a photo, it's done. Everything is done. All the like tuning right away. So anyway, now comparing this to, like I mentioned, the Poco F5 Pro, which will be hands down a significantly better device if you don't need those like pro camera, whatever the Sony Xperia adds to their devices, and also the ability to use this device as a display for their, like, I think alpha cameras. I think that's something that they do, although I could be wrong. Never used it myself, so I'm not necessarily certain. But if you don't need any of these like extra features that this might bring, and just looking for a phone, this is not a phone for you. This is not a phone for majority of the people. And let me now give you the numbers. In terms of display, just put that side by side, just so I can just completely dumpster this device in a way. Give me a moment. So, display 6.1, Poco 6.6, resolution 1080p, 1440p. So obviously Poco has a better one. Display type, this one has an OLED, so that's actually pretty good. Poco AMOLED. Now, won't be as good, but it will be very close, and I'm talking like very close. But it has 120 Hz refresh rate, Dolby Vision, HDR10 Plus certification, and a peak brightness of 1400 nits. This device can get that bright. Also doesn't have a high refresh rate, also doesn't have HDR10 plus certification. It only has like HDR, doesn't even specify which one. So you can put an HDR on almost anything, and that doesn't even support it. Now, it is an OLED display, so chances are this will perform really well, but it's not certified. And in terms of the brightness, obviously, Poco will have a brighter display. Also has a bigger display, high resolution, better screen to body ratio, so with 87.5% instead of the 82.5. Better pixels per inch. So yeah, in all these cases, Poco wins. Now in terms of internals, at very minimum, we get 12 gigs of RAM. Here at the max, you get 12. At minimum, Poco gets 8. Here, max, you have 8. And in terms of storage, obviously this one has 128 max, though you can expand it using an SD card. Now Poco, 256 at the minimum, half a terabyte at max with 12 gigs of RAM, though you don't have expandable storage. So that is a little bit of a drawdown, but arguing the half a terabyte should be enough for most uses, so yeah. Cameras, 64 main, 8 and 2 megapixels, ultra wide, and then 2 is the macro. And in terms of processor, on the Poco, we have a Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. Now it's not the newest one, but it's very close to being the newest processor on the market, and it is one of the highest ones you can get, only beaten by the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 and the Apple processors for iPhones. But if we're sticking with Android, there's only one processor higher than this, which is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. So obviously this phone blows this one out of the water without any kind of competition. It's not even funny, while costing $469. Nice. While this one costs $470. So it's basically the same price for a device that is significantly faster. That's why I don't recommend going for this one. It is an overpriced garbage, in my opinion. Now, for my personal use, it is garbage. Now, chances are, if this has like any kind of these additional features, like using this as a display for your camera, so you can have like a viewfinder, I think it's called, or whatever. I'm not a photographer. I want to stress that out. This device might have significantly more use for you, but as a phone itself, and comparing it to other devices that serve the same purpose, it falls behind, and it falls like super hard. So that's why I don't recommend this device. Now, to clarify this a little bit further, Xperia devices did usually cost quite a decent amount. So I do want to point out that all the other Xperia devices, the like Mark 1 or Xperia 1 Mark whatever that they have right now, also will cost insane amounts, and it will rival like the S23 Ultras. So just keep that in mind, while still delivering also less. So like I mentioned, if you're looking for a just Android device that serves the same purpose as, well, for instance, this Android, or this Android, then look for some other devices over this one, because this one is just overpriced. And if you need specific features in this device, then obviously you don't really have much of an alternative. You have to, or you will stick with this one. There's no other option for the camera like purposes that this device might add, assuming I did hear correctly. I have never tested this out, but obviously I can keep mentioning, you can apparently use this device as a secondary screen for your cameras and stuff like that with a Type-C connection. So if that is correct, this device might add some usability to you, but to most people it probably won't, and that's basically the gist of it. So anyway, with that being said, hopefully I didn't ramble on too much, but if you found this very helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.